Shirley Temple and her family, her mother, and then later Shirley and her husband, and then eventually her children, have been very, very careful in preserving artifacts from and memorabilia from Shirley's early childhood years. And there are some absolutely wonderful treasures that are included in the collection. One of the most important ones is this wonderful leather saddle. This was a saddle that was gifted to her by Joseph Schenck of the Fox Studios, and he had it made for her in the very famous Los Angeles leather firm of Lichtenberger Ferguson. The saddle has an actual silver medallion on it, presented to Shirley Temple by Joseph Schenck, and her name appears on the back of the seat in really interesting lasso-style lettering. It says Shirley Temple, and then hanging down, leading to the stirrups, is a large pad that has on either side an embossed image of her face. So it's a really special set that was made. I found one research book that said that at one point people had been trying to find out whatever had happened to the saddle, and Shirley said, "Oh, I think I gave it to my brother and no one knows where it is." Well, where it was housed in Shirley's private archives, where it remained in absolutely impeccable condition until this time. The occasion of gifting the saddle to Shirley was that she was also being given a gift at this time from Joseph Schenck of her special pony, which was coming over to her from England, and it made its trip over on the maiden voyage of the Queen Mary, which was quite important, and then came cross-country by railroad, and Shirley met it at the Los Angeles train station, and she was quite eager to have the pony. She wrote about this in her autobiography, 1988 autobiography. She said this quote, "Burdened with a specially made Western saddle with my face tooled into the leather skirts, the pony was introduced to me in the railroad freight yards in downtown Los Angeles. A welcoming flower garland, which it promptly tried to eat, was draped around the pony's neck. 'Giddy up,' I cried. The pony moved ahead. The saddle started to slip sideways, me with it. A switch engine tooted just as a line of freight cars came screeching along an adjacent track. The pony whinnied, kicked, and reared up while I held on. 'I'm going to call him Spunky,' I shouted. 'He's not afraid of anything.'" And that was the story of Shirley's pony and the wonderful gifted saddle to her that was made. Standing next to it appropriately is a pair of leather chaps emblazoned Texas down the side in leather studs, and these were a special gift to her at the 1936 Texas Centennial, in which Shirley was given great honors, along with the pair of leather boots. Two of the very important items from Shirley's collection that we are not showing here because of size limitations, but I hope you all get a chance to come to the Grand Exhibition in Kansas City on July 13th in order to see this wonderful collection, or come to one of the many traveling exhibitions we have. At the traveling exhibition, you will see Shirley's car, which was gifted to her by her dear friend, Bojangles Robinson, the famous tap dancer who taught her to tap dance, and more of him in just a moment. This is a grand car, a gas-powered car, and with her name emblazoned on the side with a wonderful headpiece, and it's just grand. And she used to drive it around the studio lot, and she said that's where I had my first traffic accident, when I clipped the trousers of one of the cast, and I was then after told I had to take the car home, and I soon lost interest in it. But she had a great time with it, and the family has kept it preserved ever since, and it's just a wonderful piece. The other piece that is so wonderful is her Steinway baby grand piano. This was gifted to her in 1939 by Theodore Steinway, along with an inscription plaque on the piano. This is a gift from the Steinway family, and she's kept it preserved perfectly in her home since that time. There are many photographs showing Shirley's at her home with this Steinway piano, and behind the Steinway piano is this wonderful large oil painting that was done of her by Pete Costa, the Russian painter who came to America in the late 1920s, and it made his way to Hollywood, where he was famous for doing paintings of famous celebrities. Before that time, he did paintings of FDR, King Christian of Denmark and of other celebrities around the world. So extremely well-known painter. Wonderful painting because it features in it not only Shirley in her very stylish dress, and again with a correct length right to the bottom of her fingertips, and she's with her dog Scotty, which was actually her dog, and on the other side you are actually seeing the cage, a canary cage, because her pet Scotty dog and her canary were two of her very, very favorite pets throughout her early childhood. So very well done rendering this oil painting, and obviously a favorite of Shirley since it hung in her home her entire lifetime. Shirley Temple was so beloved that very early she was invited to Grauman's Chinese Theater, and those of us who grew up in the 40s and 50s and 30s in America knew the great ceremony of becoming a celebrity and putting your handprint in the cement on the sidewalk in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater. And Shirley was invited to do that, and she was given a pair of ceremonial shoes at the time that she would wear to this, and they were given to her by her dear friend, Bill Bojangles Robinson, and here are the pair of shoes that are inscribed to Shirley from Uncle Bill that she wore to the ceremony. Along with the shoes, she wore this particular coat with the fur collar and the matching beret, and they have the clothier label on the inside, the designer label, Rene Hubert. And that's important because Rene Hubert was the costume designer of some of her early films. And one of the other ephemera that is in the collection are a series of costume sketches done by Rene Hubert. We have one of them that is actually signed from the series, and they're always done with this very characterized, unusual eyes and the curly blonde hair. And here's a costume sketch from the Scotty dog dress, along with a sample of the fabric. And there are a series, about 10 of these, that are done. And so this is a really great, precious thing to have. And then also having the coat with the costume label on the inside from Rene Hubert. That was a dress that Shirley wore to the handprint ceremony. Now, a funny thing happened at that ceremony. It's one of the few photographs you will ever find of Shirley where she has this very tight-lipped expression on her face. Her lips are closed, and you almost don't recognize her because you're so used to her wonderful smile. At the ceremony, about a minute before she was about to go do the ceremony, she lost one of her baby teeth. And of course, the studio was always very insistent that she not show a missing tooth. I don't know why, but there it was, they were. So she was instructed, well, okay, go out there, but don't smile, whatever you do. So that's why she had the tight-lipped expression, and also why, in order to distract attention from her face, she decided not only to do her handprint, but she took her shoes off, these wonderful shoes that Bill Robinson had given her. She took them off, she handed them to him, who was standing next to her, and she went over and put her footprint in the sand as well. So it's a wonderful story and great memorabilia to go with it to really add to the interest of the story. After Shirley did some of her first work, she was put in touch, the studio did, with Bill Bojangles Robinson, who became a very, very close friend of hers. And I wanted to read you a quote from one of the early passages she wrote about in her autobiography. She said that she formed a lasting friendship with him during the filming of the Little Colonel film in 1935. This is what she said. She met him. She said, "May I call you Uncle Billy?" I asked. "Why, sure you can," he replied. After a few steps, he again stopped. "Mr. Robinson doesn't fit me anyway," he grinned broadly, "but then I get to call you darling." It was a deal. From then on, whenever we walked together, it was hand in hand, and I was always his darling. The two remained very close friends throughout their life. They were together in 3 films doing their wonderful dance routines that are so famous that people are aware of them forever. Well, when Shirley formed her police force, and I'm going to read you a little quote about that, which is so interesting, how she decided she would get these ideas of things she was going to do, and she wanted to have a little more control in her life. So she decided that she would form her own police force, and she also wrote about that in her autobiography. And she said this: "I had the idea that I could have a police force, and I had no limits. With the idea of my police force, I had no limits. I hit upon the idea of creating my own force with me as chief making the rules," which is great. We'd all love that. She was like 6 years old at the time, you understand. It was really not designed to police anything, but rather was an organized system of obligation from whoever I was able to Shanghai into membership. And she had so many people that she would get on her police force, and there are many photographs of her pinning her badge on them and getting them to join. Fines were arbitrarily collected for infraction of rules, such as flubbing a line or delaying a scene. The insignia of membership were paper clips until eventually they got more from a toy store. I was chief, I was judge. There was no appeal. At last I had designed an ideal. As an autocracy, it was perfect. It's such, how she writes about it in later life to me is such an amusing way of describing a childhood that was full of joy and fun, and she looked back on it with such amusement. At any rate, here she is pinning a badge on one of her designated people, who is actually a policeman in himself, but he's getting a badge. She's wearing her Rebecca costume, and there is the badge. Now, going back to Bojangles Robinson, one of the many gifts that he gave her was her diamond-studded police badge. And it actually is a really nice European-cut old diamond is embedded in it, a special one for her. She kept it all her life, and it says, Chief Shirley Temple, Police. And so that was her very, very special badge that was quite important to her. The two of them exchanged gifts all their life and remained close friends until his death later, much later in the century. A few other things to show you that were personal artifacts from Shirley Temple that are really quite wonderful are her own sewing box with her mother-of-pearl initials on it and her face emblazoned on the front, a very beautiful sewing box, even filled with some of the old threads, and knowing her love of the Japanese artifacts, this wonderful pincushion. Her typewriter must have been a gift to her, Underwood Champion. It's in beautiful condition, and it has a plaque on the front that says, to America's Pet, Shirley Temple, on the plaque, to America's Pet, Shirley Temple. And her wonderful own phonograph record, a very beautiful one with colorful illustrations, very stylistic of the 1930s, and with a plaque on the front that says Shirley Temple. So very, very specialized right there in that type of thing. Other wonderful gifts she had sent to, so many gifts were sent to her. This was one that she really kept all her life, and it was so meaningful to her. It was an accordion sent to her by Anna Galeazzi, and you see the name on the front, Galeazzi. It was a very famous accordion-making firm in Brooklyn in the 1920s and 1930s. Anna Galeazzi was the daughter of the owner of the company, and her father had made this custom accordion for her. She loved Shirley Temple movies so much that she took it upon herself to have Shirley's name put on a panel on her own accordion and sent it to Shirley along with a letter telling her that I hope you will keep this forever. My father gave it to me. Now my father is in heaven, and I would like you to have my accordion. I hope you'll learn to play at least one tune. And I think she did learn to play one tune. Other wonderful things we have. The cartoonist, Raymond Knurr, who did the Katzenjammer Kids that everyone is familiar with, did a special cartoon, designed it for her, and said to Shirley Temple with my extra best wishes from Harold Knurr. So wonderful things like that. There are original Disney cells with Shirley and the three little pigs around her, very, very wonderful, that are shown in the collection. And this is extraordinary right here. We have a set of bound scripts for each of her movies. This is the Curly Top movie, Shirley's own script, and on the inside, of course, animal crackers. Each one of the scripts has a hand drawing inside, symbolizing one of the scenes or the songs from the script, and then a photograph from the film, and then inside the actual script that would be studied. So this is a wonderful leather-bound series. Another wonderful memorabilia is a leather-bound sheet music of Shirley Temple's with her photograph on the front. We don't know who custom made this for her, but all of her very, very famous songs are in here in the chute. It was bound into this beautiful leather-bound book. And then there are a series of 4 of these. This one is Heidi, and the very, very famous photographer Harel of the 1920s, who photographed wonderful film stars and did very, very artistic work that's highly prized today, did a series of books for Shirley of characters from 4 different films, this one being Heidi, and it is filled with art photographs of her in her various costumes. I think there are like 20 or 25 photographs in each of these volumes. Very moody, artistic, beautiful photographs. A real treasure. Look at this. Isn't that wonderful? A very different vision of Shirley that he was able to capture than you usually find in the stock studio photographs. So as I say, there are 4 of these bound books. And then I want to show you the autograph books. Shirley Temple, being a celebrity herself, was constantly hounded for her autograph, but she was a big autograph seeker herself. She writes in her autobiography an amusing tale that she stopped believing in Santa Claus when she was 6 years old, when she went to sit on Santa's lap at Christmas, and instead he asked for her autograph. She decided then she would start getting autographs of other people. We have wonderful, wonderful autograph books. I think this may be my favorite part of her entire collection of memorabilia. Her first autograph book covers only 2 years, 1934 to 1936, and it is pretty extraordinary because they're not just autographs. She just didn't go up to people and they wrote their name, John Jones. She would get personal, detailed messages from each one of them, and a lot of them really relate to their relationship with her, how they feel about her, the extraordinary statements that are just true. Again, looking at this book is holding history in your hand. We talked about Bill Bojangles Robinson before. In this particular one, there's an autograph from him with a little picture of him, and it says, "I will do a few taps anytime, any place, anywhere, for the cleverest and sweetest little girl in the world. Shirley Temple, sincerely, Bill Robinson." Rosa Poncel, Harry Lauder. They just go on and on. All of the people, Cesar Romero. You just can go into actually reverie just reading these things. Here's Buddy Ebsen that she did her tap dance with in Captain January. "With all my love and fond memories of the cutest little scamp I ever had the privilege of working with." And P.S. A preposition is a bad thing to end a sentence with. So he's correcting his own English. And just wonderful little personal statements. And this particular autograph book is filled with more than 100 autographs. And what you're seeing in what we showed you in the layout, those are photographs of the autographs that appear in the book. The actual autograph book is for the new owner of these to take and just have a wonderful time with. Now the second autograph book from Shirley Temple covers the years 1937 to 1939. There are 90 bound-in autographs in that book, so in what you're seeing laid out there are only just a few of them, and then there are 5 additional loose autographs of various luminaries. Each of these people entered into the sphere of Shirley Temple's young life, and from each she managed to get a very personal message. I love the one from Orson Welles. There's a sketch of Orson holding a mallet, a croquet mallet, and he does the inscription, "With all good wishes from one croquet champ to another." There's Eleanor Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, Uncle Al Jolson, Jean Hersholt, who played her grandfather in Heidi, Joan Crawford, Jimmy Durante, and he did a profile sketch of himself and he signed it Schnozzle Durante, Ethel Merman, Helen Hayes. It goes on and on. Absolutely wonderful. And again, just emphasizing to you what is so extraordinary about these. We're not just talking about their autograph, we're talking about a personal message inscribed to her on each one of them. And then the third of the wonderful autograph books are ones that were done for her by the cartoonists at Disney. And these are great because each one of them has an actual sketch of the character that they tended to be most responsible for working on, whether it was Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse or one of the 7 Dwarfs or Goofy, and with a message from each one to her. "Hi, Shirley," and then a little message, and then they would sign their name. So it's a great capsule history of early years at Disney as well. And they're absolutely wonderful. Which takes us then to a collection of other autographed photographs, really wonderful autographed photographs that are in the entire collection, and wonderful ones from luminaries. For example, we have letters and photographs from FDR, one where he's thanking her for the birthday cake she sent him and saying the only problem was that I ate too much. Picture of her with Eleanor Roosevelt, who obviously forgave her for doing the slingshot at her. And there are just dozens and dozens of these correspondence and letters and wonderful nostalgic memories. And finally, concluding this little film video, I wanted to show you some of Shirley's own artwork, because that is also included. And for those of you who would love to see it and to hold a piece of history in your hand, holding Shirley's artwork is really seeing her childhood personality and her character. There are examples of flowers and birds, and then my own personal favorite is this little drawing, and it looks to be like Shirley herself with little angel wings, and she's in the clouds looking down, and she's calling it Heaven, Looking Upon Earth by Shirley Temple. So I want to thank you all for spending this time with me while I'm able to show you just a few of the absolutely wonderful historical relics that have been saved by the family of Shirley Temple for this nearly 80 years, and which are now available for your viewing. She was a sparkling personality. That's what her mother said to her when she went out to go on film. Sparkle, Shirley, sparkle. And she was a sparkling personality, a great force in all of our lives of American history. And it's a great privilege for me to be able to have been working with these items and to show some of them, just some of them to you. Please try to come to one of our traveling exhibitions. Try to come to the final exhibition in Kansas City, where we will be showing the entire collection. And if you can't do it, if you truly can't travel there, please be sure to get the book. It's over a 300-page book, which will be showing each and every one of these more than 500 artifacts from the life of this very, very wonderful person. A personal thank you we all owe to the Black family, Shirley Temple Black's family, her mother, Shirley Temple, and her husband, and also their children, for having preserved and taken care of these artifacts so carefully. And I hope you all get a chance to hold a piece of history. Thanks very much.